The globalization of medical cannabis. One of my favorite people on the planet will lead this discussion. She is an international consultant and a founder and partner in the New Holland Group. Yeah, I'm talking to you. All the way from Montana, one of the best point guards in the state. Right? Let's hear it.
That's what I'm talking about.
Jamie Pearson, baby. Jamie Pearson running the ones.
Okay, there's Deepak. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're missing somebody. Tyson. Okay. Okay, you guys. Time to go. Hi, everybody. Good morning. Good afternoon. Okay, come on. You can do better than that. There you go. There you go. There you go. We have a panel for you that is going to be so good. I need you guys to be awake, aware, and really listening, because these people here are going to drop some gems. We're going to start by letting them all introduce themselves, and then you're going to know the fire that we just brought to you. So let's start here, and we'll just go left to right.
It's a lot of pressure to start with.
Yeah, you can handle it.
Andrew Miller, based in Toronto. I'm Vice President of International Business Development for Organigram Global. Some of you may have heard of us. We've just acquired Sanity Group here in Germany. Very exciting. Well, in Europe, across Europe. Been in the cannabis space almost 9 years now, all focused on international business development. Happy to be here.
Welcome, Andrew.
Hi, everybody. Paul Ferfaro. I'm the president of Global Medical Cannabis for Village Farms International. We are selling product across the world in many medical markets, all across Europe, in Australia, New Zealand, Israel, Germany, UK, and others to come. Very happy to be here.
Welcome.
Thank you all. My name is Sasha Stefanovski. I'm CEO of PHCAN International. We are based in Netherlands, production facility in Macedonia, companies across Germany, Poland, Ukraine, and soon some other place. Thank you.
Hi everyone, Deepak Anand. I work with companies that are looking to scale into international markets. Also do a lot of work with governments, looking at policy and regulations, as well as working with CPG and tobacco companies on really navigating the cannabis industry.
Hi everybody, Tyson Kramer, Peak Profit Yields, helping people operationalize and build efficiencies. I was previously the Vice President, Chief Cultivator of Global Operations for Aurora. I was in charge of about 60 metric tons internally and 30 metric tons externally. And prior to that, I was the co-founder of Greybeard. So very happy to be here. Thanks.
See what I'm saying? Give it up for this panel. Okay, we're going to start with Tyson, and I run a tight ship. You guys know this. Tyson, talk to us about the difference between just growing tonnage, 30 tons, 60 tons, that's a lot of tonnage. But growing tonnage is different than having a supply chain that is successful on the international market, international scale. Talk to us about what is the difference between a supply chain that can be successful internationally and just growing a lot of weed?
Yeah, it's really complicated, but you do have to run a really tight ship. A lot of focus on operational efficiencies, focus on margins. But I think the biggest thing for me is having tight congruity between your commercial and your operations. And ultimately, commercial ends up having a lot of asks to build a portfolio that don't necessarily align with your facility or your operations. And so building a robust kind of global portfolio that is aligned to your operations, and those things that don't align to your operations, you want to be outsourcing, but holding that same tight focus on operational efficiencies for your partners as well, right? Because the specifications are very tight as you globalize. You have plus or minus 10% in many countries. You have plus or minus 20% when we're talking about flower. Flower makes up approximately 70% of the market, and ultimately you need to build a portfolio that can have tiers of potencies that allow you to be able to distribute despite the fact that they may have fallen out of specification. And that's the biggest challenge. And ultimately, the commercial team shouldn't really be driving the portfolio beyond your capacity. And that happens a lot. It just doesn't function within your operation. They're asking for more cultivars than your facility can provide. They don't understand the bottlenecks. They don't understand all of the associated downsides. They don't come up with minimum quantities of kgs that they should be offering. And it just drives massive amounts of inefficiencies. And ultimately, you have to plan for out-of-specification batches.
So what I'm hearing you say is you can't let the tail wag the dog, right? Because you got the people that are buying from you who are so important telling you what they want, but you've got the reality of running the show, and so you're basically saying you have to stay in control and you dictate to them. What are you laughing at?
I'm laughing because I'm the tail that wags the dog. I'm the commercial guy. Maybe you're probably the same. I've had many a conversation, Tyson, with my ops team about this exact thing. And I think you're absolutely right. And I think the important thing, speaking as the commercial guy that is always coming with opportunities and everything has to be done yesterday, I think what's really important is that alignment, and not just the alignment on the number of cultivars or the number of products, but I think it's really important for the ops team to understand the difference in the business. So, obviously, some of us here run fairly large, I don't run it, but are part of fairly large recreational companies in Canada, right? It's very different. Yes, you could say it's easy. We grow 100 tons of weed. We can ship that all out internationally. But as we all know, the international medical market is very different. So the understanding of the ops teams, the QA teams, the legal teams, the supply chain teams, what's the difference between medical cannabis and recreational cannabis in Canada? That's a very important understanding, just as I need to understand what the impact of me saying I need 10 new cultivars next week. They need to also understand what it means when you have a patient who's on a prescription who needs the same product, the same consistency, the same viability every single time, and you can't just be swapping out products, like you might be able to in a rec market.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You have these exotic strains, right? Everybody wants the exotics, but in the medical market, if a patient's taking Blue Dream for, to stay awake, because they're struggling with whatever they're struggling with, you can't just go, well, we're going to give you some Gorilla Glue, or it doesn't work like that. They need that consistency that comes in. Paul, you guys, you export a lot. I mean, Village Farms is huge. You have a great reputation. You're doing big things in Canada. You just won the BC Export Award. Congratulations. Give them a hand. Yeah. Awards are nice. But you win awards because you're getting something right. And in this particular case, you're establishing trust. The way I look at it, the physicians and the patients continually want what you're producing. How do you build that trust?
So from our experience selling medical marijuana in Germany or selling it in different countries around the world, but this even applies to everything we're doing in the recreational market in Canada, and it also contributes to what we're doing in the Dutch coffee shop pilot, because we're participating there as well with 2 locations. It all comes down to, can you eliminate risk? And I think this idea of eliminating risk, this is what we're constantly trying to be able to do for the prescriber, for the pharmacist, for the distributor partners that we have, and also ultimately for the patients who are looking for their medication, right? How do we eliminate risk? And the only way you can do that is if you have repeatable outcomes and you have absolute consistency in everything that you're doing, right? So you want to make sure from a product performance point of view, the product always acts and is a quality that the patient is expecting it to be. You want to be able to make sure that it's widely available. So you want to make sure that if a patient goes anywhere at any time in any store, they're able to find the product that they're looking for. And the only way you can do that is with an uninterrupted supply chain, right? At Village Farms, we have over 30 years in controlled environment agriculture, so we've been doing this for a very, very long time.
You were growing what, tomatoes?
Absolutely, tomatoes
all
and produce, exactly, right? And we're coming up close to 10 years in cannabis cultivation, right? So we're able to offer that consistency to our patients, we're able to offer that consistency to our partners, and that's really how you build trust in this industry.
You want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I'd like to jump in, Jamie. I think it's 2 things, really. It's consistency and compliance. And I think the first one you guys have talked about quite a bit, but the second one hasn't been spoken about enough. And I think there's this misnomer that getting GACP certification or even getting GMP certification, which Village Farms has, is sort of the end all. It's actually just the first step. I think compliance then leads into understanding people's supply chains, right? And when you look at a market like Germany, every single client in Germany has a different requirement. So it's hyper important to be focused on the supply chain and understanding what it is that your client actually needs. And GMP certainly is one step in that process, but then actually understanding what are the different requirements, because within Germany, for those that may not be aware, it's decentralized. You look at Germany as one country, but every different region, Berlin operates completely different from Saxony, from Bavaria, and it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. So yes, the market is absolutely there, the compliance needs are there, but then understanding the complexity in the supply chain is really the critical element for people.
And then layer on top of that there are 27 different regulatory environments in the EU in the first place. Compliance is where the devil is in the details, 100%. I always say yesterday at Tallman, when I gave my opening remarks, I said, Europe's not a market. Europe is 27 markets, and each one of those markets has their own little subsection. Freistaat Bayern, it's like the Idaho of Germany. Same thing, we have that stuff going on in the European continent as well. I want to throw Sasha a question. Sasha and I were on a panel in France together, and I found out at that time he brought Tyson 2.0 into Europe through his own cultivation, through his own production. He's got a GMP facility in Macedonia. You're exporting all over Europe, into Australia. You're doing all kinds of things. When you were planning to come into medical cannabis, you came out of a medical environment. Talk about how that experience has informed how you entered the cannabis market and why you would make a decision like bringing Tyson in. What are the advantages of doing some things like that in a medical environment?
Thank you, Jamie. This is a really good question. For me, it's more philosophical answer at start, because it all starts with understanding. You need to understand the environment you are working in order to have a proper plan and to have a proper execution. So for me, coming from, let's say, national healthcare system, pivoting to the cannabis gave me a clear overview on the administrative requirements that every company needs to have in order to execute proper business setup. And when you connect that with the healthcare demands and pharmaceutical demands, you can craft a really amazing business model, and you can benefit from all pharmaceutical advantages and pharmaceutical aspects to shape any type of product into a pharmaceutical product. So when I overviewed the situation, for me it was clear that from a healthcare perspective, patients are not really, the system is not really seeking only for availability, it's seeking for reliability, consistency, and clinical confidence. Because doctors always prescribe what they trust, and patients always lean on consistency because they need something that can treat their medical condition. And for us, coming from this standpoint, we understood that we need to have three constant pillars that we implement every day in our processes, which is EU GMP understanding, like a mindset, not like a certificate, then consistency across batches and across deliveries to different countries, and at the end, integration of all the processes into one system in order to build trust to governments, because whether we admit or not, we are highly depending on political will across Europe, across the world, so we need to behave very credible, because credibility build trust, and that's what we use in order to build to bring such a powerful brand as Tyson 2.0 is into the medical cannabis market in Europe, because we implemented pharmaceutical rules. It's very simple if you have the right setup, as I said at the beginning.
How's that been working with the Tyson Group, and is it fully launched, and are you in the market with it?
So as you know, we are active in Germany, in UK, and we have some plans for other countries. But for us, it's easy because Tyson is advocate and he's a patient himself. So he's involved in some of the processes, some of the narrative that is behind the brand. So it gives us a great, let's say, wind in our back to formulate any approach to any market.
Do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting because obviously Sandy's got a couple of, call it the celebrity brands as well, and I think it's a bigger conversation too, because it's you want to be represented or representing somebody who has similar beliefs and similar, like you said, Tyson's a patient, like, you know, so I think it's not just about the name. I mean, obviously there's lots of names out there that you can license or you can bring to, you know, Cheech and Chong, we could bring that to Canada, those kinds of things. But it's also got to align with what you're trying to accomplish, and also it has to go down to, you know, what's the benefit to the patient. I mean, you're going to bring in a licensed brand because you think it's going to sell more, but it's ultimately got to align with what you're doing. So obviously anything that we're selling internationally or even domestically has a certain level of quality that it has to meet, has to go through certain processes. We make sure that everything is going to be done the same way and done properly. And if you can raise that bar or do something different by using a celebrity brand, then that it will generally help you. But it's not the celebrity brand itself that does that helps, but it's also, as Sasha said, it's really the quality and the rigor that goes behind the product that you're putting into that bag that has that celebrity's name on it.
So the celebrity effectively isn't what matters. It's what you do behind that celebrity, and they're just helping you get the word out that you are that quality level of product that they would put their name behind. So it's just another credibility builder. You know, when I think about the process of how you would pick a market to jump into, because you're talking about we're in the UK, we're in Germany, we're in Australia, we're in all these places. I have a question for you, Deepak. You've advised governments, you've advised big tobacco companies, you ran a big German public company. That's when I first met you when you were at Materia. And you were really instrumental in helping shape a lot of the Canadian policy. So how do you, when you're looking at a market, there are markets that are going to drain your cash, and there are markets that are viable. Tell us how you determine which one's which.
For sure. I think I'm just going to answer that question, but before I answer that question, I'm going to go back to the previous conversation. I think that in North America, you know, a lot of us come from North America, and I think there's this, you know, this belief, and you know, it's true to a large extent, is, you know, you just cultivate the cannabis, you comply with whatever the local requirements are, you get a celebrity, you know, kind of endorsement, and off you go. And we'll just do the same thing in Europe. And it doesn't work that way. Because in order to get a product registered in Europe, compliance is key. It doesn't matter who you have. You could have Tyson, you could have, you know, Snoop Dogg, you could have whoever you want. But unless you can legally sell a product in the market, that's the most important thing.
So do you just have that encyclopedic brain where you know who has... Is that really what it is? It's kind of how I picture you.
If you're going to be successful in this industry in Europe, particularly, you need to have a hyper-focused understanding of the regulations. It's all about microbial counts in Germany, as an example. It's all about compliance with, you know, microbials. That's sort of the number one.
Microbials.
That's what you need to understand.
It's about microbials.
It's all about microbials. So you need to
It's not
understand.
about heavy metals. It's not about, it's microbials, huh?
That as well.
It's mold.
That's the one that
well, Tyson can help everybody with their mold problems, right? Isn't that right, Tyson?
I'm going to say yes, yeah.
You're going to say yes?
So it's a matter of understanding how you comply with that, and right? And you said it's not, you know, Europe is not a single market, and this is true. In the UK, you can irradiate a product, and that's very easy to take care of microbials. In Germany, you can also irradiate product. You just need to wait a very long time to get a license on a strain-by-strain basis to be able to irradiate that product. What do you do to make sure that you're not waiting 9 months before getting an AMRAD B license? How are you getting around microbials to stuff like irradiation? So this is the conversation you need to focus on. I think that the branding, the marketing is all secondary. You need to first understand how the hell you're going to get a product to sell. Because you could have all of the celebrities you want. If you can't sell the product, you're out of luck.
Jump in.
Yeah, I just want to jump in because I think what Deepak's talking about, and we work very closely together on a lot of things, and he's 100% right. In terms of this whole notion of understanding the regulatory system and understanding the quality compliance and understanding all of the different rules for all the different jurisdictions, exactly to your point, you have to have an encyclopedic brain, and you have to be able to do the gymnastics to be able to hop from one to the other in microseconds, right? I think the other one too is it's really, every time there's new regulation, and in Germany recently there was a lot of conversation about shutting down telemedicine, no more promotions, how are you going to be able to communicate? There was all these things that were going on that everybody was very worried about in terms of what was going to be repealed by the German government. And when there's new regulation, or when there's the threat of new regulation, the easy thing for people to do is complain, to be able to panic, or to be disgruntled. And I think you have to look at it from a different angle. And the angle is, this is our job. You have to be able to be fast enough, smart enough, creative enough. Because when new regulation comes in, it's not only an opportunity, it can actually be the single biggest growth engine to a company, right? And instead, I think what a lot of times happens in the market, and I'm not saying this to be controversial, it's we go for a brand, we go for a celebrity, and when that doesn't work, we drop the price. And then all of a sudden we find ourselves, everybody's complaining that the market is being price compressed, we're price compressing ourselves, right? And a lot of times a company decides to do it because they believe we're gonna be able to have sustainable growth. All that happens is you're operating on one price, you drop it, your competitors follow a couple of weeks after, you're all selling the same amount, but now at a lower price. Very good for the patient, very good for the consumer, but essentially you're no better off than you were before, and then we start complaining about price compression, right? This industry, whether it's recreational in Canada, whether it's the coffee shop pilot in Holland, whether it's anything that's happening in medical markets, it's too much of a nascent industry to be suffering the amount of price wars and the magnitude of price wars that we're suffering from.
The good old price compression. Yes, that's a mic drop moment. Thank you. The good old price compression argument. We're doing it to ourselves. It's amazing. Tomorrow, the keynote from Dan Cook of True Terpenes, he's going to talk about how to get out of the race to the bottom. And you get out of the race to the bottom by having aroma, right? The nose knows. And what we end up doing is we make these desperate, fast decisions to drop the price because we got to get that product sold. It can't sit there. You need the cash to come in so you can run your business. But the reality is, if your product is fire and if it smells good, it's that initial smell that everybody cares about. You guys should make sure you see that keynote tomorrow. Tyson, I think that the question that I have for you is really going to lend itself to adding to what we were just talking about. Talk to me about the post-harvest production. How important is the consistency of your post-harvest production systems that you have in place that allow you to not trip the microbial, not have to be in the race to the bottom, have the strong aromas? How important is that for you to build trust? And I know I'm going to give you a multi-part question. It's not just all of that. It's also the fact that when your customers, who are the buyers and the consumer at the end, pop that bag open, it needs to be the same every single time. Is that really done mostly in the post-harvest production?
I think it is mostly done in post-harvest. And I do think that post-harvest is actually one of the easier operational efficiencies that you can do, but it does require micromanagement of your teams. And for whatever reason in operations, people feel that post-harvest can be macro-managed, and honestly, it cannot. You have to be in there almost hourly. It's a very monotonous job in every way, shape, and manner, and so you need to kind of be over the shoulders. You need to have lots of photos, visual representations, really tight quality control, really tight release systems, photography for aging product, some way to measure the quality, degradation over time. This is a perishable product. Obviously, I think there's a lot of work that needs to go in prior to post-harvest, but this is really key. When you talk about sorting material, understanding your ratios of larges, smalls, mediums, how are those being distributed in your packaging? We have not refined this, and in any way, shape, or manner in the industry. When you're opening product, maybe a good producer is trimming it properly and it looks like it should, but the ratios are completely out of control. You could open it up and have tons of smalls, mediums, larges, it just randomly gets distributed. And so there's a lot of efficiencies that we need to gain.
Just jumping off of post-harvest, I think that Tyson's completely correct, but I think, again, bringing it back to Germany, I think focusing on drying, this is going to be a big thing. The GMP conversion piece is a very hot topic. It's a very timely topic in terms of companies being able to get products into market. And I think it really starts from your drying area and having enough capacity for drying. The topic of GMP conversion and washing is a live one. It's only going to get more difficult. And I think companies that hyper-focused on getting their drying specifically up to scratch, having the volume at cultivation, having the drying capability combined with EU GMP is really where you're going to succeed. Because if you're going to be depending on this GMP conversion piece, regulators are only going to get harder and harder on it. So you might as well get ahead of it, and it all starts in your drying room.
Fun fact, I owned a cannabis farm with mugs from Cypress Hill many years ago and learned very quickly that I was terrible at growing weed. I was terrible. So we got out of that very quickly. But what we found was that the drying part was the most important. Drying and curing. You need to dry. They're all shaking their head. I'm like, no, I want to sell this. I don't want it sitting there. You're exactly right. And so do you find that the people that you're consulting are not really all that interested in drying or listening to you because what they want to do is get it bagged and get it sold?
No, I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think that, Jamie, you have to understand, the industry is growing so quickly. A lot of these businesses were set up to deal with a different market. And things are changing on the fly. Even to today, Paul made this comment, regulations are constantly developing. It's really hard to plan a business at volume without fully understanding what the regulations are going to say. And then those regulations keep changing on you. So it's not so much that companies are not listening. They've been focused on other things for different reasons. And, for them, back in the day, a lot of my clients, the priority was North America. The priority was servicing that market. Now the priority is Europe, and Europe just has a different requirement. Back to the initial theme, this is not a one-size-fits-all solution. I think you asked me what's going to make sense in international markets and new markets coming online. I think cannabis companies that are looking at any new market first need to ask themselves, what are we good at doing? Are we a good volume flower cultivator that can produce a lot of volume and do that well? Are we a gummy manufacturer that really understands gummies and all of the different things? Are we a vape manufacturer that can get medical device approval? So you need to ask yourself the question, what is it that you're good at? And then understanding if that market is going to be able to address what you're good at. You can have the best hash and best vape in the world, but if you can't launch it in Germany because you don't have a medical device product going along with your vape, you're just not going to be able to play it. So you need to understand what it is that you're good at first.
The idea of build it and they will come, yeah, that doesn't work in cannabis.
Yeah,
Sasha?
I just wanted to add on what Deepak just mentioned. The industry is evolving very fast. Education is lacking. Many people are entering the industry with not full understanding of all the processes. And at the same time, governments are getting upset on what's going on and the patients coming in so fast. So they will push the industry to more regulation. So only the ready ones, only the capable ones, and only the, let's say, flexible ones that have clear understanding and advising by the right people can maintain on the market on a solid basis and think for increasing market share and etc.
I totally agree with everything, and I think one of the important things to remember is, if you're looking to enter a market when it's in the middle of its green rush, you've missed it. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have an opportunity, but it'll be at the tail end. You've missed it. So the important thing is not only, as Sasha and Deepak said, having the relationships so that you can almost anticipate what's happening. So if you're running a global business, it's easy to say you need to understand what's going on in each market. That's sort of given, but you really need to understand what's happening, not now, what's going to be happening 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, where are the patients going, where are the products going, because it has to be a strategic decision. There are markets that we have chosen not to go into for
Like
a variety
which
of
ones?
reasons.
Which ones?
New Zealand, I'll give us an
Okay,
example.
he spilled the tea. You heard it here.
I'm not saying we'll never go into New Zealand, but New Zealand is, for various reasons, small market, highly regulated, not a tremendous amount of opportunity. Flower is flower, not a lot of other products. So when we look at that from a strategic perspective to say, does that align with what we do well? Does that align with how we want to grow our business? Does that align with the capabilities that we have? We say not now. Doesn't mean never, but it's not now. So I think that's the important thing too when you're trying to look at what industry or what country or what area you want to go into. You have to match it up with what your capabilities are. And one of my old CEOs used to say, if you have a right to win, it works. If you don't have the right to win, don't go in.
So Paul, I have a question for you, and it's about kind of what we've just been talking about. How do you protect the margin when you, because really if what we're talking about is all of the things, if you reverse engineer the whole process, you make sure that the customers, the patients, the buyers, the pharmacies, everybody trusts you. That means you've got the consistent product. To Deepak's point, you're compliant, your post-harvest stuff, everything's in order, and you're trying to stay out of that race to the bottom. How if you can't avoid it because everyone's undercutting you in price, you got to find other ways to protect your margin without compromising your quality. What are everybody here wants to know, how do they do that?
Yeah, I think from our experience, the highest margin unlock capability is really being very, very disciplined on how you play, where you play, and who you play with, right? We have prioritized at Village Farms GMP. I mean, honestly, we were talking, Deepak was mentioning dry rooms. I think I talk more about dry rooms than I actually talk about cannabis on most days, right? We have absolutely prioritized GMP, and we've prioritized all of our quality systems, quality measurements to be able to make sure that we have the utmost quality for every single market that we want to be able to get into. I think the other one there is we've invested heavily over the years in terms of the size and the scale of our operations, which means we can come in at very, very competitive pricing where we have the margins that we're looking for, and we can do this at scale, right? And again, that's something where you're talking about uninterrupted supply. This is something that our clients are asking for. This has enabled us to be able to have had stable and sustained pricing over the past couple of years. And I think that's something that our clients really appreciate, patients, consumers really appreciate, that it's been very, very stable pricing, and it's actually been very lucrative for us to be able to maintain that stable pricing throughout. That's allowed us to be able to have very high trust and highly transparent relationships with all of our partners. We do not speculate on new markets, right? We do not speculate on regulation. When something is known and it's black and white, that's when we decide to be able to enter because there's no more guessing game. You decided to stay out of New Zealand. We're in New Zealand, highly regulated, small market, incredibly, incredibly lucrative for us, incredibly lucrative for the partners that we're working with. So when you put all this together, that's really part of now our service offer, and that's really one of the biggest pillars in the Village Farms brand that we're offering to consumers and to patients and to partners around the world, and that's how we've been able to really unlock margin.
You want to jump in?
Yeah. I mean, in terms, just to add on it, the biggest, let's say, expense in our operations is the energy, the electricity, because we are running indoor facilities. So we decided to heavily invest into renewable energy, to use the power of the sun in controlling the electricity expenses. That's we see as an efficient way of controlling the margin, keeping the cost on some normal level, because we are living in a complex world, and the threats are not only within the industry, but the global politics is influencing how the expenses and how all the logistics is functioning. So we decided to, let's say, expand our portfolio into renewable energy, which we are using for our production facilities.
Jamie, if I can just chime in on your question regarding how do you kind of withstand and withhold margins. I think if you can do volume at scale in a compliant manner, and you can consistently deliver that volume that is compliant to a client, you're going to be able to address price. Price is almost secondary. People want to make sure that you can provide them with volume on a consistent basis. And if you've demonstrated you don't need to go through Portugal, you don't need to worry about Czech Republic, you can actually get product directly from Canada into Germany, and it's compliant and consistent, the price automatically follows. And that's how you bring the price up, is once you've ascertained that, your client understands this is a long-term partner. And that's how you sort of get the pricing up.
Yeah.
I agree 100% with all of the commercial kind of ways in which you can control your price. But to me, the fundamental backbone of margin is to decrease your cost per gram from a production standpoint. It allows you to be able to deal with some fluctuations that you see in the market, and ultimately increasing yield and decreasing labor are the #1 needle movers that you can do. So it ultimately comes down to genetics selection and improving operational efficiencies, and taking people, generally speaking, what I end up doing is taking people who are good or slightly better than good to excellent, which is an astronomical margin mover. If you're producing 600 grams a square meter and you can move to 1,000 grams per square meter, if you were producing at $1.20 per gram and now you're at 80 cents a gram or 70 cents a gram, you are not nearly as affected by these market fluctuations as you would be otherwise. And if your commercial team's doing an incredibly good job, they're also going to get you the best price, which is going to create a sustainable business for yourself.
Facts. I mean, people want what they want. And if, like Paul was saying, what Deepak is saying, if you're bringing it consistently, they're going to pay for it because it's worth it not to have the hassle of all the other stuff. What were you going to jump
Maybe
in?
just add quickly one other thing. I think going on the assumption that all of us who are growing and all the cultivators grow good product. I mean, I think it's table stakes that it's good. There's different levels of quality, no question about it. I'm not debating that. But I think what the important thing that we try and do with our relationships is we try and add value. So the product to me is absolutely compliance, nose knows, all of those things, but in my mind, those are table stakes. So what do you do differently? What do you do in addition to that? What kind of value can you add to your customers, to your partnerships, right? So those are and I'm sure you
What
guys
do you
are the
do?
same, like
What is
strategically,
the value?
That you have to ask the customer the question. How can we help
Excellent.
you, right? So I was just in Australia for a month or so because we're launching a new line of vapes and gummies there. And that was the question we're having with distributors all over the place, prescribers, distributors, pharmacies. How can we support you? We've got 10 years worth of science behind everything that we do. How can that help bringing these products to market with patients, prescribers, pharmacies, those that have to follow the compliance, but what can we do to help? I think is a big question that very rarely gets asked.
Taking out complexity from the supply chain is what you can do to help. That is the single thing that you can do to help.
We're just about out of time, but I do have some time for a couple of questions. There's mics up. Is there anybody here we can run a mic to you? Does anyone have a question for this panel? Oh, we just knocked. Oh, okay. I was
One
gonna
person.
say, we knocked it out of the park. We told you everything you need to know. Now we got one question.
Let's hear it again for Jamie and everybody on this panel, too. They're doing great.
Okay,
Thanks,
so my
Michael.
question's for Sasho. So one of the things that you guys were talking about, just slapping a brand name on there, but actually Tyson had his Macedonian facility had a good reputation, and so once the customer, which is the most important thing, gets the product and they know it's good, it's not just slapping the brand on it. And as you said, it was Tyson who's into it, so it's not just slapping a brand on it. So I think they did a really good job with that.
Yeah, I think so. Go ahead, Sasha.
Yeah, thank you very much. I thank you for this very valuable what you said, because we are building trust before we are building volumes, right? Yeah. So building trust, getting this trust, having a product which is quality enough, and having this cultural attachment between such a celebrity person and the medical cannabis space, it's giving the results.
And so what did you have any other brands or names that you used in the past? Besides Tyson?
So Tyson is the first brand that we had.
Yeah, we'll probably
great.
More
we're
will
probably
follow,
going to bring
more will follow.
Belushi's farm to Europe. That's going to be the next one, right? All right, you guys, give this panel a really enthusiastic. Show them how much you love them.
That was great. This is the International Cannabis Business Conference. Jamie Pearson, always on fire.